So welcome to my lecture on SQLite in Android. See, SQLite is a database. It is free of cost. No server is required, and almost all basic operations can be performed by using this SQLite database. Generally, in smartphones, we use SQLite along with the app. For suppose when you take Android app along with that app, there will be there can be you can store one SQLite file as a database. It is a small file. It is a file. Okay, SQLite is a file, and it is for database. It stores data in the form of database, and we can access that database in our Android application. Okay, so for that there is a package. That package is android.database.SQLite. Okay, we have to use this package in order to access SQLite in our Android application. Of course, there are classes in that particular package. So many classes are available. Some of the classes are these. Cursor. So when you execute select query, we get a result. In order to read the result, we have to use the cursor. SQLite database, it is used to refer an SQLite database. Okay, by using this database object, we perform the operations like insert, update, delete, as well as select. Open helper, this is used to manage the database. Like this is the class. Otherwise, the subclass of this class will be creating the database, and it will return this SQLite database object. After getting this SQLite database object, then we will perform the operation. So the first one is SQLite Open Helper. Okay. Afterwards, you have to use SQLite database, and so many other classes are available. One is query, another one is query builder. We can use these things in order to represent queries, in order to build the queries. Sometimes, whenever you are performing any operation, there is a possibility of exception, and so many exceptions are there. One of the exception available is SQLite exception. Now, the first one we are going through SQLite Open Helper class. It is in android.database.SQLite package. Okay, and so many methods are available in SQLite Open Helper. Some of the important methods are like this: get a database. Get a database. Of course, one is for reading purpose. Another one is for writing purpose. That's why get readable database, get writable database. There's nothing but when you open a readable database, only we can execute a select query, where select a query is used to retrieve the data. There is nothing but reading the data. When we go for get writable database, we will get a database object. By using that database object, you can go for reading as well as writing purpose, both. Okay, and of course there is an onCreate method. It is an abstract method. You have to override it in the subclass of the Open Helper. The subclass, generally we define a class for our database, and within that class we perform all the operations like insert, update, and delete. Of course, in that class, otherwise that class has to extend SQLite Open Helper class. Okay, when it is extending, it has to override this abstract method on create. Okay, and this method will be called automatically. No need to create explicit. No need to call explicitly. So this will be called automatically when a database is created for the first time. So these are the three important methods. Those are provided in SQLite Open Helper class. Next one. So the first class is SQLite Open Helper, and the second class is SQLite database. It represents the database. Which database? SQLite database. Okay, and it provides some methods. Those methods are used to manage the database. Those are the methods like creating the database, deleting, executing the SQL commands, and perform some other DBMS operations. Okay, when you refer the methods in these are the methods in SQLite database. One is insert. One is insert, second one is update, third one is delete. Likewise, different methods are available in this SQLite database. Okay, of course, in this SQLite database, we see two types of methods. One is used to execute a raw query. Means what, you can write a query like how we see in our SQL. While studying SQL, you might have studied this one: select star from EMP, otherwise insert into table, uh, values, okay, update, set. So those queries. So that query directly you can write, and that query will be executed directly. So we have to use a special category of methods, otherwise a category of methods which will execute that raw query. And of course, when you are executing the query, you have to find out whether that query is a select query, otherwise a non-select query. Simply I'm writing other query. Okay, select query generally it returns a big result set, whereas other queries like insert, update, delete, create, those simply tell whether the query is executed perfectly or not. Otherwise, how many rows are affected. Those things, those other queries like DML queries will return, right? So when you are executing a select query, otherwise you want to execute a select query, there is a special method. Okay, most of the times the return type of this method which executes a select query will be will return a cursor object. Most of the times, otherwise the methods which executes select query will return cursor object. The methods that execute some other DML queries which are not select queries, those will return an integer, otherwise a boolean, saying that whether query execution is perfect or not, otherwise number of rows affected. Okay, but when we come, that is about raw queries. And again, some normal queries, normal methods will be there. These are the normal methods, so no need to write the query. You simply call this method insert the data. You simply call this method to update the data. We are not writing query over here, but we will be passing the essential things which are to be passed to an update query. You are not writing update query, but essential parts of update query it will accept as arguments. Essential parts in update query is nothing but, for suppose, name of the table, which table has to be updated, and values, which column has to be modified, which column's value has to be modified. And most of the times in update query or delete query, even in select query, there should be a where clause over there. There will be a condition. In that condition, we usually write like this: employee is equals to some value, name is equals to this much. Otherwise, there will be some and or not logical operators. By using those logical operators and by using these conditions, we will write the where class. That is what this one. For update, delete as well as select, most of the times we have to write the where class. If you are not writing where class, update and delete will happen for all the records in that particular table. And within the where class, there can be arguments. Those arguments are specified in other section where args. For suppose, sometimes I will write like this: employee number, otherwise employee ID is equals to, I don't know right now the value. In the future, the value will come. At the time, I will put a question mark. When I put a question mark, I have to tell what is this question mark. Otherwise, how to fill that particular question mark by using this where arguments, where args. Okay, it accepts a string array. Okay. So similarly, the same concept in delete also: name of the table, where class, and where args. And again in insert, the name of the table, and this is null column related stuff. You can write simply null for now. And the content values. Content values is a class into which you can store a key value pair, where key is the name of the column, value is the value which is to be placed in that particular column under that particular row. Okay, so that is what content values. We have seen all these things in the last class. Okay, when you look at one small example, generally we create a class by extending SQLite Open Helper. So database handler extends that has got inheritance or SQLite Open Helper. So database handler will become an SQLite Open Helper object. Okay. Now, of course, we are creating few variables here of type. Most of them are of type string. Only one is integer, and those will hold the details like name of the database, name of the table, and the name of the first column, name of the second column, and name of the third column. For suppose we are taking one database with name contacts manager. Within that one table, with the name contacts. Within that, there are 3 columns: ID, name, and phone number. Okay, and in the constructor of database handler, we are calling the superclass constructor. Superclass is SQLite Open Helper, and it is accepting the application context and name of the database and version of the database and some other details. Okay, and okay, so the database name is specified over here. And the second step, on create. Just now we have seen that when we have to override, the method of SQLite Open Helper, that is nothing but on create, which accepts SQLite database. And here, I mean, this method will be executed when a database is created. So you can execute some create table query over here. So here we are forming a string. That string is an SQL statement. We are forming that SQL query from the variables which we have taken just now. There's nothing but create table. Name of the table is table contacts. So those two are concatenated. String constant is concatenated with the string variable. So some part of query is generated here. That's nothing but create table contacts. Now open the parenthesis. They have to specify the name of the column and data type of the column, and if there exists the constraint, comma, name of the column, data type of the column, name of the column, data type of the column, and close the parenthesis. Like that we wrote, otherwise we generated the create query, and we are passing that, we place that create query in create contacts table variable, and we are passing that variable to the method db.exec_sql, where db is a SQLite database object. Within that there is one method. It is a raw query related method. Means what, we are directly putting the query in the form of SQL and giving that one to execute. So raw query we are providing here to exec_sql. So in the previous list we haven't seen exec_sql. Means what, not only these methods, there are so many other methods available in SQLite database. Some of the important methods are displayed over here. Okay, this exec_sql will execute a raw query. Means what, a query in the like how we write in Oracle, in the same format we will write over here. Okay, so that is about we just gave the name of the database, and then we created the table within that particular database, and then there are 2 different methods available in SQLite Open Helper. One is on upgrade and another one is on downgrade. And within those methods, you can write whatever code you want, but those methods will be executed in order to upgrade the database as well as downgrade the database. Generally, what happens is there will be versions for the database. Otherwise, 1 month back, we can tell like this: our database has one version, and today another version. Like that, you can give version numbers for the database. If any problem comes, you can make use of. If any problem comes with the current version, you can upload the latest database version. For that reason, we generally maintain database versions. Okay, and there will be upgrading as well as downgrading. You can so in general, it is depending upon the user. It is depending upon the developer how to upgrade the database as well as how to downgrade the database. You can do whatever you want, but this method will be called in order to upgrade the database, and on downgrade will be called in order to downgrade the database, and you can perform whatever operations you want. But here what they're doing is they're dropping the table, and again they are creating the table. They are dropping the table, and again they are creating the table. That is what on upgrade do in this example. It is completely your it is in your hands. Whatever you want, you can perform. Okay, so now we are writing one add contact method which accepts contact object. Contact object is user defined. Okay, first of all, in our example, we are dealing with the contacts manager. We are dealing with the contacts table. Within that contacts table, there will be multiple rows. Each row holds information about one contact. In order to represent that data in the form of a Java object, we are supposed to create a Java class. That class name is contact. Within that class name, the variable names are the names of the columns in the table. and we will write some getter methods as well as setter methods in order to access those variables through Java object. Okay, for suppose we can get the details from the user by using UI, and we put those details in a Java object and use that Java object to place that one in the database. However you want, you can do. It is always better to use an object to store some data. Here, contact object is used to store the contact details about one contact. Okay, so that is what that contact class is not shown in this slide. If you want, you can view that contact class in developer.android.com website or so, or there you can find out. I think the reference I have given, yes, it is not a developer website, it is a Java T point. You can refer this website and you can see that example, otherwise that class, contact class. You can understand very easily, not a big issue if you know Java. Okay, now what we are doing, the first step here, we are using this. This is nothing but the object of the same class. Which class is this? Database handler. What is this handler? This is the subclass of SQLite Open Helper. So it is an Open Helper type object only. So within the SQLite Open Helper, there is a method called getWritable_database. So when you call that one, it will return SQLite database. Now, which database it will create? It will take the details within that object, SQLite Open Helper subclass. And from that, it will get the name of the database. And using that name of the database, it will create that particular database, and it will get the database, and it will return the database. And we are storing that one in object reference variable of type SQLite database. And content values. Content values is a special class. Within this special class, you can put by using its method put. Values is the object. Values.put is a method. It accepts two arguments. One is string, another one is a value. So key value pairs. So here the key should be the name of the column, and value is the value to be stored in that particular column. So what we are doing over here, what we are getting the value is, it is from the contact. It is from the argument. Okay, within the contact object, there is a getName method. By calling the getName method, we can get the name of the particular contact. By calling getPhoneNumber, we can get the phone number of that particular contact. Okay, so likewise, we created the contact values object with the name small letters values, and that only we are using while calling the insert method of DB. What is DB? DB is the object of SQLite database. Within that SQLite database, we have insert, update, delete methods. To insert method, you have to pass the name of the table and specify null as second argument, and third argument should be the values what you want to insert. At the end, you are supposed to close that particular database. Okay, so likewise, you can insert data into the table by calling the insert method of SQLite database. Okay, then the second point, now I want to read the data. Read the data means, for that we are going for one more method, getContact. Okay, getContact is an user defined method. It accepts an integer. And it will search the table. It will search the table with that particular ID, and it will get the details of that particular contact with the ID provided. So the point here is, here getContact will take the ID of the contact, and it will return the contact object, Okay, so the use of getContact is, we have to pass the ID of the contact. It will return the contact in terms of Java contact object, Java class contact object. Okay, now what we have to do over here, we have to call getReadable_database, because we are reading, no need to write right now. Okay, and if you see the previous method, or there we close the connection. Okay, it is better to close the connection after executing the operation. So when you want again you have to open and close, like that we have to do. And when you are opening, based upon the operation that you want to perform, you have to use either getReadable_database or getReadable_database. Right now we are going to select the data from the database. That's why we are going for getReadable_database method. Okay, now here we are using another method called query. Okay, so just like these are non-raw query related methods. What are those? Query, insert, update, and delete. Now the query, okay, it is used for executing an operation. It is used to perform an operation similar to select. When you look at the select query will be like this: select, okay, we have to specify the columns from, and then we have to specify the table name. Afterwards, where we have to write the condition. Afterwards, we have to write for suppose group by, and you have to specify the columns. Having, then you have to specify the condition. Finally, order by, and again you have to specify the column. These are all the classes available in select query. For all these classes, they are providing these arguments. Okay, the first one, the table name. I'm simply writing TN. What is TN? Table name. So for a table contacts is the table name, and the second one is sorry. The first one is the column name, okay, and the second one is table name, right? So the second one here, the second argument, table name, and then the column names, okay, the column names, okay. Sometimes not only one column, we can retrieve multiple columns. So for those multiple columns, you have to pass a string object, of course, a string array object. String array object you can create outside and initialize with some data, and then you write the name of the string array object. But instead of that, what they're doing is they are creating the string array object right now over here, and they are initializing. Okay, initializing with the key ID variable, key name variable, key phone number variable. Those are all the variables which we use for column names. And then that is what columns. And the third one is where clause. Okay, here a condition we have to write. A condition we have to write. So that is what this condition. Key ID is equals to some value. Here value is not known. That's why what is that value we are supposed to specify. That value will be specified as a selection arguments in the next immediate argument, this one. Okay, so that value is nothing but that ID what the user is passing to this method. Okay, ID is in the form of integer. We are converting that one into string, and we are putting that one inside a string array, and then we are passing that one to a query object. Okay, now in this example, group by is null, means we are not using group by, we are not using having, we are not using order by. That's why those nulls. Okay, and then the query will be executed, and it is a select query. It will return a result set. That result set should be stored inside one more object of a type cursor, of class cursor. Okay, so cursor is also one more class provided in SQLite package. Okay, we have to check whether the cursor is not null. Not null means there is something in the object, and there is something in the object that is generally the result set from the select query. Okay, now by using some of the methods in this cursor query, like move to first and get string, get int, get float based upon the data type. Okay, there will be getter methods and there will be pointer moving methods within the cursor class. Again, I'm telling there will be pointer moving methods as well as getter methods. So for suppose this is a result from the select query. This is the result from the select query. A table is retrieved by executing the select query. Now cursor will refer this result, but at one time it can refer only the one record at a time. One record at a time. Cursor can refer or point only one record at a time. So there will be a pointer here. So we have to move that pointer by using the methods of the cursor. Okay, one such method is move to first. We are moving the pointer to the first record, and from the first record, the cursor is pointing the first record. And now if you write cursor object, for suppose C is the cursor object, C dot, and if you write the get and that particular data type, open the parenthesis and the index. So here 0 is the index of the column which we are retrieving, and string is dt. There is nothing but data type of the particular column. Okay, if the data type is int, we are supposed to call get int of cursor. If the index is 2, then you have to write get int of 2. Okay, so right now we are getting the string and we are converting into integer the first one id. Then getting the second one name, it is a string as it is. And now the third one, that is nothing but index 2. The phone number is accessed in the form of a string. That's why we are not converting that one into some other data type. So the point here is we are creating a Java object of type contact. For contact class, we are creating an object. That object will get the values from the database through this by executing the query method of SQLite database. Okay, of course by using cursor. Okay, so we get those values. We are passing those values to the constructor of the contact. Okay, and constructor object is created, and contact object is created, and we return the contact. Okay, so that is what this one. Okay, fine. So here the important points are getting the readable database, executing the query method, and knowing the arguments of the query method, and how to deal with the cursor object. Those are the important points that we have to notice in this example. Okay. Then the next one, get all contacts. There is one more method. Previous one is only one contact we retrieved from the database. Right now we are going to retrieve a list of contacts. We are returning a list of contact type Okay, so list of objects, and that object type is contact. Okay, so now we are creating an array list of contact. Okay, and we are writing the query, select star from name of the particular table name is present in one variable, table contacts. Okay, we are getting the database in a read write form. That's why we are calling it writable database, and we are executing raw. Okay, raw query is the name of the method. Okay, here we are directly executing the select query, and we are passing nothing to this, no other arguments, only the query directly, because no other things specified. Directly select star from name of the table, that is sufficient. So we are not writing anything, null. And after executing this, it will return cursor. Okay, so with this, when you look at SQLite database methods, we have seen insert, update, delete, exec SQL, query, and the other one is raw query. These are all the methods in SQLite database. Okay, now by using cursor object, we are moving to the first. Okay, if we wrote, so move to first method will return true if it is able to move to the first. If it is not able to move to the first, then it will return false. Okay, if result exists, then it will go to the first record and it will return true. If result is not existing, means after executing the select query there is no result, or suppose if there is no result, then if you call cursor dot move to first, it will give false. Okay, it will give false because it is unable to move to the first record because there is no result set. Okay, that's why we wrote in if, and then do while is used. Okay, in do while the condition is like this: cursor dot move next, move to next. First one is we are looking by going through these examples. We are going through the methods. We are studying the methods available in each class or each object. So now in cursor we have move to first as well as move to next methods. Okay, move to next is nothing but after reading one record, the pointer will go to the next record. Okay, so that's what. Now we are creating an empty contact object, and for that contact object there are setter methods as well as getter methods. In the previous method we used getter method. Right now we are using setter method. Okay, now how you get that value which is to be set as id? We are creating a contact object. Into that contact object we have to place id, we have to place name, we have to place phone number. From where to get? How we are getting? We are getting from cursor dot get string and converting it to integer and placing that one inside contact id. Similarly, second one name, placing as contact name. Third one phone number, placing as phone number by using those setter methods. So we got the contact object fully equipped. Now we are passing that one to one method of that array list. What is that array list? It is an array list object. Okay, it is a list object. Within that list object, there will be a few methods like this: adding, moving, right? That is Java concept. Now by calling add into that list, we are adding the presently retrieved contact. We retrieved only one contact, that is added to the list, and moving to the next, reading another contact, adding into the list, going to the next record, reading another contact, adding into the list. Like that, it keep on moves. And after reading the last record, move to next will return false, saying that there is no more another record, no more records. So it will return false. So this do while will end, even that if also will end, even that get all contacts will also will end. At the end, within the contact list, we get that particular list of contacts. Of course, at the end, we are supposed to return that contact list. We have to return that contact list that is not mentioned in this slide. Okay, fine. And then updating. We have seen retrieving. Okay, right? The previous two slides are retrieving one record, retrieving multiple records. Okay, and we have seen insert. So insert, select, and now update. Simple one here. They are using the method update. They are passing name of the contacts by using the variable table underscore contacts. They are passing the values by using content values object. Within the content values object, we kept the name of the column and value of the name of the column, value of the column by using the put methods of values object. It is content values. Okay, and of course, before that, we are getting the database for reading as well as writing purpose and storing that one inside SQLite database object reference variable DB. And by using the DB only, we are updating that particular database by passing the name of the table, values of the table, and the where class. Okay, so we are updating in already existing contact. Of course, this method will accept Java object contact. Within that contact object, there should be the details of the contact. Okay, and it will return an integer saying that how many records are updated. Okay, now that is what we are returning by calling the method update. So method update will return a value that is nothing but number of rows affected. The same thing will be returned over here. Okay, now so here where class we have to use, otherwise entire table will be updated with these two values. That's why we are writing where class. Here there is a question mark. What is this question mark? We have to get the ID. From where we have to get the ID? From the contact object. So contact object calling the getter method get ID, it will return an integer, that is ID of the contact, which is passed to this method, converting that one into string and placing that one inside a string array and passing that one to update method. Okay, so likewise we update. So simple point, we are updating the database by using SQLite database update method. Update method accepts name of the table and values to be modified. We pass the values to be modified by using content values, and in the content values we pass key value pair, where key is the column name, values are the actual values to be passed. And the last argument, but one argument is where class in the update method, and the last argument is if you are giving the question mark, then only you have to specify this last argument. There's nothing but the selection arguments. Otherwise, that condition question mark related values should be specified as third argument in the form of string array. So that is what update. And then delete. Simple. Nothing is there. We are writing delete contact method. When you call delete contact, it accepts the contact object. It takes the contact object. Through the contact object, it will get the details of the contact, and it will delete that particular contact from the database. How? By calling delete method of SQLite database. And again, same thing. Delete also accepts almost same arguments like update. In update, it will update, but in delete, it will delete. Okay, table name, where class. Of course, here we will not specify the values, right? We will simply specify the where class. Values will be specified in update, but in delete values will not be specified. We will simply specify the where class. In where class there is a question mark, so we have to specify how that question mark has to be replaced by using a string array. At the end, it is always better to close that particular connection after the execution of that particular code. Okay. And then some other points. For suppose if you want to get the count of contacts, for that one more method, get contacts count, it will return an integer saying that how many contacts are there in that particular table contacts under contacts manager database. Here we are writing a query in the form of a string, and name of the name of the string variable is count query. So we are calling raw query method here, raw query method, and we are passing the query directly, and we are not passing any other arguments, so simply null, and it will execute that particular query and it will return the cursor. Okay, and we are closing that, but from the cursor we are getting the count. That's nothing but within the cursor, along with motto next, motto first, get string, get int, get float, along with all those methods, there is one more method in cursor object that is nothing but get count. By using this get count, you can get the count of the records in the results set, count of records in the results set. So this is about SQLite. In SQLite, there are classes. In SQLite, there Android SQLite, there are classes. By using those classes and by using those methods in those classes, we will perform the operations with the database, like creating the database, creating the table, inserting the data, updating the data, deleting the data, selecting the data. All those things can be performed by using those classes and methods. Okay.